Hey, what's up? This is DJ Prostyle.
And this is Penny Delas.
And this is Teach Me Something.
Brought to you by Berkeley College. Welcome to Teach Me Something.
Let's
Pod.
go. Episode
Let's
1. Episode 1.
Yes, you got DJ Prostyle.
Hi, everybody.
In the building.
And Penny's here.
How's it going?
It's going very well. I mean, so far in the first 10 seconds, I think this is awesome.
I think we made it.
I think we made it.
We can stop here.
We can stop. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank
we'll
you
be back.
so much for
Episode
tuning
2
in.
It's gonna be amazing.
Tune in next Monday.
Oh, we got our pens.
This.
We got the pens.
Shout out to the PAs in the back.
So shout out to Berkeley College, first of all, making this
Thanks.
happen. This is going to be such an amazing podcast. Teach me something, right? And this is episode 1. We're going to get to know each other on the first episode, right?
Yeah.
And
kind of like orientation.
This is
you know?
It's like an introduction.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm ready. This is going to be fun.
All right. So what is Teach Me Something? So it's a storytelling-driven podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be exploring the transformative power of education. So through our personal journeys, candid conversations, dropping the gems, inspiring lessons, we're going to see how education both inside and outside the classroom has inspired our paths, open doors, changed lives. I'm so excited.
It's going to be amazing.
Right? It's going to be fire.
Absolutely.
So, Pro, we're going to start with you today.
Okay.
We're going to put
ready.
you on the spot.
Let's go.
It's all about you today.
That's right. You got to get to know your host, right?
I know. We got to get to know you.
Who is this guy?
Who is this guy? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So it really comes down to, I know we've had conversations outside of the pod as we've been doing pre-production.
Absolutely.
And something you said stuck with me. You said music saved my life.
It did.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, where do I begin? So obviously I was born in New York, born in Queens Hospital, raised in Queens up to, I want to say like 11, I want to say, or 12 before I moved down to Florida.
Yeah.
We went to Orlando. And before I left, I was always into music. I remember we used to go, especially where I lived at, there would be people breakdancing on the corner. This is when hip hop first started coming out. My family actually was more into like rock music, right? I had cousins that had like, mohawks, and this is when heavy metal music was really blowing up, right? But for some reason, I always had a passion for hip hop and music in general. My family is half Dominican, half Greek, a lot of culture there. So I'm listening to all types of music, whether it's Spanish music, rock and roll music, Mediterranean music, Greek song, whatever the case is. And so I've always had a passion. My dad played the drums. I had a cousin that was in the band as well. And at first, I wanted to be a rock star. I was like, oh, I'm going to play the drums or the guitar. And then my cousin was like, no, I'm playing the drums. So either way, I always had this thing about music, right? So when we moved down to Florida, we got separated from our family here. But one thing that never left me was the passion for music. So down there in Florida, I always listened to music. But I got pulled away from my family and the culture here in New York, right? But luckily, I had an older sister. And my older sister... How I really got into music, and I just might as well tell you my whole journey, right?
We're here.
Yeah.
So,
my sister turned, when she turned 16, they threw a sweet 16 party for her. And it was in our house. So it was cool. They had a DJ come, and it was the first time I actually saw a DJ, like in person, and I was just astonished. Like, there was a bunch of people there, but I was just locked in on the DJ because he was playing the music, and he also seemed like the coolest one there.
You were mesmerized.
Yeah, he was playing the songs. Everyone was dancing. It was like, wow, this guy really is like in control of everything. He seemed cool. Everyone was high-fiving this guy and shaking his hand. So at the end of the night, the guy who was DJing, he left his equipment. Well, he was about to leave, and I was looking at the equipment, and I guess he worked it out with my family that he was going to leave the equipment there and come back another day to get the equipment. So he left his turntables and the whole setup. And when I was standing there, he was like, hey, do you want to mess with this stuff? And he showed me how to turn it on. And he was like, just if you want to turn this on, and that was it. He left, and I stood there on his equipment. I probably messed it up, right? But I stood there playing with his equipment he left it for like a week. So every day, all day, I was and when he finally came and got it, I was like heartbroken, right? But at that moment, that was it. I was like, I have to get a pair of turntables or do something. I want to continue to, at that point, it's just a passion. And it's like any kid with a toy. I think I was still like 12 or 13 years old at the time. And I begged my parents into getting me turntables, and we went to a pawn shop, And the first turntables I bought, and anybody listening right now who's a DJ who understands, these are, I got belt-driven turntables. Now, what that means is like, on the inside the motor is like a rubber band that connects. And I bought 2, and within like a week, I snapped one. And any DJs know, you break the belt, and I would tie them together, and it was just crazy. I didn't have the best stuff to start with, but I had something to start with, and that was it. That was my passion. Once I got it, you could not get me out of my room. I was in my room. The way kids are today with like, iPads and playing video games, I was locked in on playing music. And I only had like this many records. And that was it. I started doing my research, and I found somebody who wanted to get rid of his records, and I started buying music. And then the first, I never forget the first crate of records. I bought a whole thing of records from somebody. It was all like freestyle and house music from back then. So I learned how to play at a faster tempo. Even though I really liked hip hop, I didn't have the hip hop records yet. So I learned how to DJ playing house music, which going back to any DJ listening, it allowed me to learn how to scratch faster and to do things back then. Because DJing back then versus what it is today is just two different.
So what was this path from the moment that you started exploring, right, that facet?
I just kept doing it through high school. So then, at this age, so when people ask how long I've been DJing,
frame it for the people,
I
bro.
DJ'd, just to put in perspective, age-wise, right? I DJ'd my graduation party from middle school going into high school.
Wow.
So I was the DJ, DJing the house party. It was a house party, going from 8th grade to 9th grade in Florida. So I've been DJing since then. So then I went into, high school. Now at this point, you're just doing it for fun still. I had to go, I was working I was bagging groceries at a supermarket, and who knows?
That's how it starts.
You don't know where life's going to take.
Right.
My family was against it to a certain extent. I mean, they did buy me the equipment because they saw the passion, and my dad, from where we came up, knew that it was better for me to stay in the house with a passion, doing something than just running around outside in the street or getting into trouble, right? So that's the good side of it. The bad side was just like when I was doing hip hop so much, they were like, what are you doing getting into hip hop? Like, that's not even your thing. And da-da-da-da-da. They looked at it like, that's not for you, right?
Yeah.
But I kept, my passion for it. I just stuck with it through high school. And then I DJ'd all the way through high school. And I mean, I could sit here and tell you, I've gone through every facet and every step from the bottom up, from, like I said, DJing at house parties from a kid, to garage parties, to doing the mixtapes, to doing bigger parties and growing and growing and growing. I could continue on to, to where we're doing arenas, but.
That's so cool. I'm just like listening and thinking about all the synergies that we have in common that we didn't know, because we're teaching each other as we're going through this, which is really cool.
That's what this whole podcast is going to be about.
So we're both mixed, right? My mom's from Uruguay, my dad's Greek.
Yeah.
So he was a drummer. So I'm listening to all this stuff and getting into theater as a kid. I loved event production, and I was the only female on an all-male theater crew. So as a freshman, we weren't allowed. It was sophomore moving forward, but I advocated, got into it, did band, did all the things, and then I gravitated towards entertainment, and I started with DJs. Like we've spoken about it before, managing DJs, and then working in bachata, and that was not something that my parents were approval of. As a good Greek kid, you either go to medical school, you become a lawyer, you do something. My mom was a nurse. Shout out to our healthcare heroes who really dedicate their lives to saving the rest of us. But,
growing up in Florida, I mean, my parents were doing real estate, right? Or they were doing timeshare stuff. So I even got a job. I remember when I came out of high school, that's the first thing I did. I got a job working in like a timeshare office, typing the I wasn't selling timeshare, but I could just learn. I guess I had the hand skills, so I learned how to type in school fast. Like I could type like 60s. Even to today, I could like you could talk and I could just write. For some reason, it stuck with me. Like I could type what you're saying without looking at the screen. And
cool. So you're going to do the transcript for the podcast. Great.
So when this is done, I'll do all the stuff. Yeah. So that's what I did. And then I realized and then I finally, got my one big break DJing. And I was like, I'm going to just lock in. I noticed also every time I would veer off from or try to do multiple things, either one or the other wouldn't work. So it was like either give it your all or don't, So I just ended up 100% staying locked in and focusing on music and started to do events and clubs and, got to a point where then I realized like, oh, wait, I'm actually creating an income and this could work,
I do feel that those of us that have been in entertainment, doesn't matter how many times we attempt to veer off and do something else, it's a calling and you
come
end
back
up right back.
Yeah.
You end up right back. When was the moment, even though in entertainment we all say we've never had that made it moment, but what was something similar
I always
to
say
that you had?
For me, my made it moment, and shout to Busta Rhymes, is and this is me at like 16, 17 maybe years old, right? I DJ'd a Busta Rhymes concert, and it was my first time as the headlining DJ, and I just killed it. And it was my first time like talking on the microphone, telling people like hands up, and they would do it, and I was like, it was almost like a freaky feeling.
Yeah.
But at the end, and everybody was just like, "Oh, you killed it!" Da, da, da. And
You're like, this
to
is
me
it.
that, and I don't even know if I got paid to do. I honestly probably DJ for free right at that point.
Yeah.
So, but that was my like, that was the moment that I realized that I was good enough to do it, and continued on from that point. And I started building my name from that. It was my breakout moment. It was Busta Rhymes. I think it might even been Fat Joe and Big Pun, rest in peace, was there.
Oh, wow.
All at one party.
And how do you feel, because you've made a household name for yourself. You're a large brand. A lot of these emerging DJs look up to you. When you were at the premise of the beginning, you know, a decade and a half ago, how does it feel looking back and seeing these upcomers look up to you kind of as a mentor?
Yeah, I always have great conversations. Everyone who knows me knows I tell everybody I'm just a positive person too, right? So like there's a lot of bigger names and people in the industry who may want to try to, you know, hold those kind of people down. And I've never been that type. I've always been the type who opens doors. I've had to open all my own doors, right? So
open them, kick them open,
kick
whatever
them open,
we got to do, right?
Like there wasn't too many people with hands out when I was coming up or helping people come up in the game. And I have always made it a point whenever I'm in a position to help others out. I've always done that. I've always brought people along with me. And I think that's just something
beautiful.
and I'll never change. That's just me. I don't care. You know, like I don't care if I lose my spot to somebody. Like it is what it is. Like I'm just, you know, I give people advice and I tell them just through what I've been through. But I've really taken every step from like I said, from DJing from nothing to then I got into TV, and you know I did 106 in Park for 10 years. I did every angle you could think of, and I've never been scared to break outside the box. You know, which is why I play hip hop, why I play Spanish music, why I play EDM and dance and top 40 music, and I like everything. I like all cultures and I like all music. So I've never been the type who wants to keep myself in one lane or felt like there's nothing I could do. I've signed to record labels. I have an album I never even put out, a dance album.
Stop it.
I do. I have songs with a ton of artists
throw that out.
Yeah, I have a ton of great music that it's all a timing thing too, right? So maybe when I did it, it wasn't the right time. But now I'm in New York on a station, a top 40 station. I made a top 40 album when I was on an urban station. Now I'm on a top 40 album where maybe I could take those records, tweak them a little and put them back out. So.
So for those of us tuning in, right, that perhaps we're not aware of who DJ Prostyle is, where are you now? What are you doing now?
So now you could catch me. So if you're in New York, I'm on the radio on 103.5 KTU Monday through Friday, 7 to midnight. It's the Pro Show, right? It's the hottest show in New York.
The hottest one. Forget the
party.
rest. Let's not get in trouble, Pro.
Okay.
We have a lot of friends.
So no. I tell everybody, I bring a straight look. If this is the energy I'm going to bring on the radio. So So when they offered me the opportunity for this, and we talked about what it is you want to do, I said, well, what I feel I want to do is just bring a party, positive, great energy every night on the radio, and that's what I do. So I'm not on the radio talking. I don't get into the rumors or the gossip or this or that. I've never been that type, never in my life, right? So I don't even talk too much on, what's happening in the news. If it's too negative, I just won't say it. I'll just send people to the website. Go ahead, you guys can read up on it.
Right.
My show is just positivity and energy. That's it.
And that's the Pro Show. Mm-hmm. But that's the airwaves to the arenas. What do you do outside of iHeart?
Well, also, so
because you do a lot more.
Yeah. So obviously, that's my show. That's the Pro Show on KTU. I also do Saturday nights on Power 105. I also do a syndicated mix show for Angela Yee's show, which is Way Up with Yee.
Shout out to Yee.
The Way Up mix at 12 o'clock, and that's on a bunch of stations. I think like 40 or 50 stations. I also do a mix. I'm on Monday through Friday in Miami on the station down there. So I'm doing a lot of stuff as far as on radio. Off radio, obviously, it's this industry, there's no days off. There's no time off. Like I don't have a time schedule, right?
Right.
Like, in the music industry, it's 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And on the weekends and I've slowed down during the week, right? So I spend more time with the family, which is a whole nother aspect we'll get into. But and where I've grown, out of what I used to be, where I am now today. But I definitely do a lot of events, a lot of clubs. I DJ for iHeartRadio. I do all their big, the iHeart Music Festival. I've done every single year in Vegas. I've DJ'd every one. So, I just stay busy.
Just, little list. We're just, we wear all the hats.
To me, it's like, I feel like I could do so much more still, or I've actually slowed myself down a lot, but I'm actually now picking myself back up speed-wise with doing more events and more clubs and stuff. But I slowed down a lot with the family. After I got married and you start having kids, you kind of want to just stay home. But now that the kids are getting a little bigger,
you're like,
it's let me get back outside and let me get things going.
Those Saturday parties that you do.
Yeah. It's been you've been to some.
It's been crazy.
It's been fun. I'm doing like a Prostyle and friends thing now, right? That's my angle. And what it is that I know everybody in the industry, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when I say friends, the majority of them are really friends. These are not just industry people that I'll talk to once a year in the radio station when they have an album coming out. We hit each other on the side. Every once in a while, I'll hit artists up. They'll post a picture of something. I'll tag, if they're with their family. I'm more in tune to that kind of stuff, right?
And that's something that even when we're in the classroom with our students and we're giving these workshops, we speak about your network is your net worth.
100%.
It's cultivating relationships. It's not just I met you at an event, you drop off.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to cultivate these relationships and maximize.
100%. There's a saying, and we all know the saying, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know kind of situation. Yeah. It really is to a certain extent in any field. I've seen it happen in any field. It's not, even in the game we're in today in this industry, there's a lot of people who are better DJs, there's better personalities, there's better artists, there's better everything, right? Yeah. But it really does come down to who you know. And the relationships you have,
how you know
them, and how you got there, and how you maintain and how you act when you get there. That keeps you either in this industry or it takes you out real fast.
Yeah, and it's also about you, who you are.
Yeah.
When you formulate that, what do you stand for? What's your character like? And it's your. We do this workshop like building your own commercial. So what is your commercial and what are you pitching when you're in these rooms? So definitely. So we're delving into the education side, and we've spoken about this off air, but this was something you always wanted to pursue, was getting an education, but your life rerouted.
I always said that, like, I wanted to definitely go to college. I wanted to get a degree so that not only for myself, to benefit myself, I wanted to set the bar and set the tone for my children, right? And I always felt like, my parents didn't have an opportunity to go to college. So when I was getting older, I was like, I'm going to go to college to make sure that my kids.
Yeah.
And for me, it didn't happen, but it didn't happen for any other reason other than my career took off when I was still in high school. I was on radio when I was a senior. So when I came out of radio, I already knew what was kind of going on. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that I couldn't stop doing what I was doing to go to college. So I stayed on the radio. I started doing concerts, and then, I took off, and I did very well for myself at a young age.
At that time, what did you want to attend school for? Did you know?
Yeah.
Or you just knew?
I did. I think, I kind of knew that. I always says, if I would have gone to school back then, it would have been to get some sort of, or some sort of education for real estate.
Okay.
I just knew, because when I was in Orlando at the time, it wasn't what it was now. It was growing. So everywhere you look, they were building homes and houses and everything like that.
And you had the family business, which influenced.
And they were in Times Square.
Times
Timeshare.
Square, all the real estate,
they were,
out of home media.
I wish I was buying houses in Times Square buildings, right? But they were, they were doing their thing with, you kind of knew, like, there was different lanes you could get into. But for me, I wasn't going to become a doctor or anything like that. So to me, the more realistic route for myself was, hey, real estate seems like something that could work, or something in that lane. So that's probably what I would have gone into. That's all I could say, right? But I was already so deep into music, to be honest with you, that, like, I was on tour with Mobb Deep when they were performing, and I was in high school, and I was DJing for them. And,
when you went through the school of life.
Yeah, so like so I'm going, like, I'm on tour and seeing all this craziness going on around me and seeing the money coming in and this kind of lifestyle, and then going back to school on Monday and sitting in class,
my
and you know,
gosh.
some of my friends are talking about going to the mall after or something like that. I'm looking
You're
at it
like, I have tour in
like
a
I
week.
gotta, yeah, like I'm thinking about I'm going here, I'm going down here this weekend. I'm traveling back to New York, and I was going to New York on the weekends and going to record shops, and just my mind was somewhere
How was
else.
that being so young and not having anyone that fully understood what you were going through? Did you feel displacement at school?
No, I wouldn't say that. So in my family, they kind of didn't understand what I was going through, right? Because I was going through it on my own. I moved out at 17, and I kind of just like that was it, right? So I kind of have always been like, not by myself because I have an amazing family, but I was surrounded by people who also were trying to make it in some sort of like I was DJing for a big rap group, so I was always surrounded by people, producers, rappers, things like that. You know, not a DJ here and there. You know, me and it's a crazy story, but like I used to go DJ with Khaled when Khaled lives in Orlando.
Oh, wow.
I was like 13, he was 15. You know, and I used to see his passion and drive. You know, and DJ Nasty and all these people that really blew up, and we all were right there in the same area, just growing up, and we've all gone on and became successful in our own route in the music industry. And so having those kind of peers to look up to helped out amazingly, you know? And so those are the guys I looked at. Everybody else around me also, you know, was in one way or another in that lane that had to do with music, whether, you know, it was music or whether, unfortunately, the street side of it. But that's just what it was. And luckily, and going back to music saving my life, you know, I went the music route versus the street route,
the other
you know? And, you know, it got me to where we're doing this podcast today.
And that's powerful. So you've been approached by many. He won't drop names, ladies and gentlemen. He won't tell me the who's, but you've been approached by so many to do podcasts. And you've shut all of them down.
I've never been,
why this one?
Well, this one, because first of all, it's let me teach you something, right? And I think that's already a great thing just coming out the bat. And when we talked about what this podcast is going to be about moving forward and bringing the people, and you guys, you know, listening or watching this, you have no idea how great this podcast is going to be, right? And when I say that, we're going to be bringing in people who are going to be telling their stories, right? This story today about me is just so you guys get to understand who's this guy that we're going to be seeing every week, right? And we're going to get to know you and everybody else, right? But it's all about the people who are at the beginning of their journey, right? Or in the middle, or even at the tail end, you know, whatever the case is. And I think that this is just going to help so many with being able to identify with what they're going through and teaching them something at the end of the day, you know? And it's not like a classroom kind of thing, right? But, you know, there's so many things that Berkeley offers that hit with so many things that people are doing or want to do in life, that there's going to be a podcast that's going to be exactly what they've been looking for, what they want to listen to, and help them out. And just somebody's story, you have no idea how it could change yours, you know? Sometimes listening to somebody explain what they're going through, you say to yourself, oh my God, I'm going through the same thing. And you may not think
resonates.
You may not think you could get over that hump, but then they explain everything that you're going through and how they got over it, and it helps you get over it. You know, so
it's storytelling. Everyone has a story. Some of us have novels and trilogies and legacies, right? It all depends on what we want to share, where we share it, how we share it, 100%. Right? What the platforms are. But definitely it's, you know, Teach Me Something is going to be a great journey.
It's going to be awesome.
I'm
and the
super
real
excited.
Reason, the real reason, to be honest with you, the real reason that I'm doing this podcast.
Because we really convinced you.
No. Okay. It's because I got this hoodie. Okay.
He got the hoodie.
When they gave me the hoodie.
The Berkeley College.
That was it. It fits so perfect. I said, this is it.
I know, the hoodie, the water bottle. We bribed him in merch, guys. That's what it was. We brought in a box full of merch. No, we should do an unboxing with all the merch.
But no, I'm excited about this. You know?
No, I'm really excited.
And I'm happy that I haven't done any podcasts. I mean, a lot of the podcasts that, you know, people have wanted me to either come on to do an episode or, you know, to be part of, you know, it's different from this one. And I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to talk about anybody else's shows. I just don't get into.
We're not getting into the tea.
Yeah, it has. I'm definitely not doing those kind of podcasts. You're not going to have me, you know, with the, you know, getting involved in that.
But even from pre-production and brainstorming, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Carolyn Whitman,
100%.
who's creative genius here at iHeart. Shout out to Victoria Mancuso, who has been on. Shout out to the Berkeley team, our creative team. I mean, the chairman's excited about this. So we had to pitch to a lot of people and get a lot of approvals. But even through the pre-production process of us just sitting down and doing like the feeler test, how's this going to work out and how's it going to go? And we clicked from the get.
No, it's going to be awesome.
It's been cool.
Even that's why I sound like we could just freestyle this.
Yeah, let's just freestyle the whole podcast.
Penny's like, wait, no, we have to.
I'm like the script, the structure. He's like, Penny, please.
Oh, once we get going, because it's real talk. That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
So let's go to the CTA, call to action. You know, our marketing jargon. So let's get down to it. What is a piece of advice you wish you had when you were younger?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretend you're talking to your younger self. What would you tell your younger self? That 18-year-old, 17, 18.
Invest into Bitcoin when they tell you. No. that's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm sorry. Invest into Bitcoin. And invest into real estate. Those really are the two best investment things I could do as far as what I would tell myself. But no, never give up, right? I know that people say that all the time. Like, that's the very easy, never give up. It really is the truth, right? Because anybody you really talk to who's very successful in any field, anybody who I've talked to in any field, right, who's been in that field for a long time, that's the answer, is what I'm saying. They've been there for 20 years in that field, 10, 15, 20, 30 or more years, and they haven't given up. And now they have this success story. But it's always easier to look at somebody successful when they're where they're at. But people don't understand the journey of getting there, right?
That's
Very
true.
few people are the overnight success stories or, I got to where I'm at in 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? It happens maybe now more than before. But, really, when I say never give up, if you have a passion for something, and something I'm going to teach my kids also is focus on your passion and what you want to do and lock in on that. Because what happens is some people, when they try to do too many things, they won't give what they really passionate about, the energy that it needs to get, and they won't become successful in it. That's just how I look at it.
That's true. Try it all. See what you like and then stick to it.
And then once you have that passion, like what you really like and what you stick to it and follow through all the way to the end. And I just feel like that's how you become successful in anything, sticking to it.
Well, there's no better way to end episode 1.
Is it
than
over?
By this. It's over. Episode 1.
Can we start episode 2 like right now?
I know, right? But everyone, go ahead and follow DJ Prostyle at DJ Prostyle on all platforms, at Berkeley College on all platforms, B as in boy, ERKELEY, college on all platforms. And catch our podcast every Monday on iHeartMedia or anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Let's go.
Hey, thanks for listening. Tune in next week
for an all new episode of Teach Me Something.
Brought to you by Berkeley College.